Welcome to Old Classic Car, and in this compilation we are looking at original photographs of post-war Rootes Group cars, i.e. 1940s through to the beginning of the 1970s. So, to begin with, this photograph of a sadly fading Singer Gazelle. The Gazelle, of course, based on the contemporary Hillman Minx, but somewhat more upmarket. This one showing all the usual rust symptoms at the back edge of the wing there at the top, and that is a really tricky repair on all these cars. Quite a popular, common rot spot on this series of car, the Audax series. Okay, next up, WDT 474. That's a Doncaster registered car, a Sunbeam Mark III, which was the late version really of the Sunbeam Talbot 90. And behind it, the good old Ford Pop, and to the left, a Bedford CA. Is that the Worko bus version with the seats in the back? Okay, a lovely colour photo here now, sent over by Trevor, so thank you so much for that one. And we've got a magnificent Humber parked up near the Firth of Forth Bridge. This is in 1962, and the car dates to 1959, a Humber Super Snipe. Another great photo here sent over from Graham in New Zealand. This is the Humber 80. Over there, whereas we had Hillman Minxes over there, they were badged up as the Humber 80. This one dates to 1961 and is a Series 3B. Great photograph in New Zealand there. Back home to the UK, and we've got a side-on view of a sort of early to mid-1950s Hillman there. What a great old car. That's interesting that the door shuts are a different colour on these cars from new. You see quite a few of these cars around. I often think it's just had a cheap respray, but actually that's how they were when they were new. Old slide photograph here, scan rather, YMG 333H. That is a Humber Scepter, one of the Arrow series cars, one of the upmarket Arrow series cars. That's a London registration, and that car was put on the road in 1917. It's photographed there with its proud pipe-smoking owner. And here is a side-on colour view, I think, of the same car. This one has those very distinctive full-width wheel trims, and we'll see a photo of a later example, a little bit further on, with very different wheels on it. But yeah, you don't see too many of those around now. Very, very swish car. Thanks to Colin for this trio of great old family photos here. There he is as a young lad with his parents and the family's Singer SM1500. That's quite an unusual car to see nowadays. You hardly ever see these at shows. I think I've seen one at the NEC in quite a few years of going. So yeah, great to see those. Now we are over in North Wales, Llandudno, to be precise, I believe, and we have a Hillman Imp of the mid to late 1960s. Great scene there. That one's on a C plate, so 1965. Next up in this Rootes Group compilation, we have a Sunbeam Alpine. Very, very nice car. Contemporary rival, I suppose, to the MGB and the Triumph TR4. Really nice car, and this one has the very stylish hardtop on it. Hardtops don't always look great when they're fitted to two-seat convertibles, but that one really looks the part. Now, thanks to Peter, he supplied many of the photographs featured in this particular compilation. Here we own the famous Horapito Motors Yard in New Zealand and a very sorry-looking Singer Hunter. This was the revised, updated version of the SM1500 that we saw just a few moments ago in Colin's old photos. And of course, this is the Hillman Super Minx. These went through a number of revisions through the years. The roofline got squared off on these and the sister Singer Vodes, etc. But this is a fairly early one, still with the wraparound screens front and rear, and it's probably my favourite of all the Super Minxes. Now, this is a proper rarity. This era of Minx was only produced for a year or so in the late 1940s. This is a Minx Coupe de Ville, based on the Minx Mark I, and these were built 48, 49, that kind of time. Apparently this one is outside the old park ridings, according to a little pencil note on the back. Nice photo here, VFM 463. Now, is that a Comma Cob or a Hillman Husky? The shadows on the road aren't giving too many clues, so how many windows there are down the side, I think it's probably a Husky, but yeah, either way, what a nice looking car that is, and a great scene. And talking of fantastic scenery, here we have YCR 409. That is a Southampton registered Humber, probably a Hawk. And that one was put on the road in 1959, and I think the photo dates to the early 1960s. But yeah, what a great old scene that is. and we are back over in Australia, and it looks like a Minx to us, but again you can see the Humber badge just on the back there to the left of the license plate. I wonder how many of those survive over in Australia, and indeed probably in New Zealand as well. Yeah, there can't be too many of those left. And here, very similar shape, but the good old Hillman Minx here, LBL 436, complete with learner plate on the grille. So clearly a bit of driving instruction going on there, and the dog has come along for the ride as well too, it seems. Next up in this Roots group compilation, this is a bit of a rarity, KAL 979. That is a Singer, I believe a Singer Super 12, put on the road in late 1948. That is a Nottingham registration, and the car in the background is a Morris Oxford MO, the side valve engined Morris Oxford. Another of Peter Ward's fantastic old photographs here. I think we're in the early 1980s. We've got a Singer Gazelle in the foreground, and in the background his very, very smart looking Singer Hunter. Again, those 50s, early 50s Singer saloons are a properly rare sight now. I wonder if this one's still around. Anyway, we're back into the 1950s now. OBM 543 is an early 1955 Husky estate, the Hillman Husky estate, two-door estate car. What a great little car that is. So rare these are. These small estate cars are just fantastic. Now we've got a slightly fuzzy photo here, but it was such a lovely scene with the old phone box in the background and the sign for Bass Beers up on the right hand side there, Burton Ales. Yeah, that was just really nice. We've got a Humber there, LXB 657 from about 1950 or early 51. That's a Coalbridge area registration number. Ooh, and a bit of glamour here. A young lady here enjoying the sunshine alongside a very smart two-tone Sunbeam rapier. And talking of Sunbeam rapiers, thanks to Phil for this photo. What a great shot this is. This is his Sunbeam rapier H120. And it was in the process of being exported, along with himself, to New Zealand. And apparently the car is still there. It was spotted by his daughter just a year or so back, driving along the road, so that's great news. Okay, we've got another great, very, very shiny example here of a little Hillman Minx. Very, very nice car, lady in very, very flowery garb as well, so that's great. Shame it's not in colour. In the background, I think we've got an Armstrong Siddeley. Is that a Sapphire? Certainly looks like it. Another Hillman Super Minx here. I'm not quite sure where this one is. It's a left-hand drive car. I'm sure someone will recognise that style of number plate. If so, please pop a note into the comments. Your added information when it comes to all these old photos is always really, really appreciated. I know quite a few people have a read of the comments themselves. We are back at Horror Motors, and a reasonably sound-looking, has to be said, Singer Hunter. This is another of Peter Ward's great photographs. From the late 1970s, but yeah, you'd like to think that that car could have lived again. It doesn't look too bad at all. Cheers to Steve for this one. There's his dad with about 1974-ish, I think, Humber Scepter, and again it has those very distinctive wheel trims on it. Of course, vinyl roof was very much the mark of an upmarket car, and this particular Scepter, it has that particular feature. Very, very 1970s. I'm not entirely sure where we are, but we're looking at a Hillman Minx here in a workshop somewhere or other. Does anyone recognise that particular style of number plate? The car is probably about 1949 or 1950, that kind of era, very, very early 50s. And here we have what looks like, is this a roadside picnic or just a bit of a tidy up? But the van on the right is a Commer Express delivery van. And a very, very rare sight it is too. I'd love to know what's going on here. Anyway, next up we have another Peter's photos and a slightly sad looking Hillman Minx. Oh dear, this one is clearly at the end of the road, and it looks like it's been on fire judging by all the sooty stains around the door frame there. So yeah, that one is clearly at the end of the road, and again is rusting away at the top rear edge of the front wing. Very, very common. Okay, looking somewhat happier here. There's another example of the Sunbeam Mark III. This was the replacement for the Sunbeam Talbot 90. Of course, by this point in time, the Talbot name had been dropped, so it was simply Sunbeam. those 3 portholes on the front wing there are a bit of a giveaway. This is a very late example. This is a photo that my folks took quite a few years ago now, another Super Minx, bit of a work in progress, or maybe not so much. This was on Kefalonia, one of the Greek islands, but yeah, this one. I wonder if it's still around. You'd like to think that even though it's not in the best of condition, it probably is still around somewhere, I would have thought, perhaps still in the same position. Okay, GCG 510 is next. That's a Hampshire registered Humber Hawk. From about late 47 or early 1948, but very much a pre-war looking car, dusted down and put back into production once the war was out of the way. What a handsome looking machine that is. Looking a little less handsome is this poor old Singer, another SM1500. Looks like it had been parked there for many a year, but doesn't it look fantastic next to that old corrugated iron building, which is also looking its age. But what a great scene that is. I wonder if it's still there. Here's a neat photo. Maybe pause the video and just have a read of the background info. Thanks to Mark for sending this over. And this is, where are we? Semaphore in Adelaide, Southern Australia. We've got an early 50s Minx in the middle there. And in front of that, just to the right of shot, a about 1948 Minx there. Rare to see one of those again. Here's just a great snapshot of a Humber Hawk. Looks like the family have just got home from a run out. I'm not quite sure what's going on. There were no notes. Sometimes there are notes on the back of these old photographs. In this case, sadly not, so we don't really know what's going on. But great car, and nice to see another period roof rack. I do like old roof racks. Okay, we've got a few photos now of GPL 839C, the Singer Chamois version of the Hillman Imp. Is that an old Datsun in the background as well? But yeah, that one's looking reasonably presentable still. We will have another look at this car in a moment. There we go. There is a side-on view of the same car, and in the background there's a Vauxhall Viva HB, a 4-door saloon. But yeah, the old Singer's just a little bit of tin worm starting to appear around the edges on those front arches and the leading edge of the sills. And there, just to complete this trio of photos, we have a rear 3/4 view of the same car. Great looking car. Rear engine, of course, as all the Hillman Imps were, and the lift up rear window is a very distinctive feature of all these particular cars. And in the background we have a Citroen Visa. When did you last see one of those here on the UK? Oh, okay, Hillman Minx in the foreground, but the car on the right in the background is possibly even more interesting. It is an AC Petite 3-wheeler. That is a seriously unusual car now. I'm not sure how common they were even in the 1950s, but now you've been doing well to spot one of those anywhere. Okay, LVO 713 is next. This one is registered in the Nottingham area, sort of October 1950 onwards that series came in. This is a Sunbeam Talbot 90 Mark II, and alongside it is a Minx, one of the Audax era Minxes of the 1960s. Now, alas, I do not know where this particular photo was taken, presumably in the early 50s, judging by the little Minx there, JYS 789, with a young chap stood alongside it. But there seems to be plenty of pre-war material in this particular photo. In fact, more pre-war cars than there are post-war. And here's a super photo, a lovely old Humber Super Snipe here in immaculate condition. Look at the chrome on that car. It's got some extra badges on the front, some large Lucas lamps as well, nice wing mirrors, and a deflector for the sunroof. But yeah, a very swish car on white wall tyres as well. That looks a real beauty. And also looking pretty easy on the eye, we have OBC 742, another example of the little Hillman Husky estate car with a Morris Oxford or a Cowley parked behind that. Where this is, I'm not quite sure, but yeah, what a lovely looking car, and super shiny, freshly polished perhaps for this photo. Now, YPJ 491 is the next one. At first glance it looks a bit like a Minx, but look at those windows through the, you can just see through the windscreen, the 3-piece rear window arrangement, telling us this is the Minx Californian Coupe. Quite a stylish looking car, usually two-tone as is the case here, and again a great old roof rack there. Two classics here and parked alongside one of the Farinas, the lost in Cambridge I think it probably is. We've got a Ford Prefect, the 100E Prefect, and to the right a Singer Gazelle 967 TMB, and I think this photo is somewhere over Ellesmere Portway if memory serves. And the sun is out for this next colour slide scan. And it's another Super Minx, but this time a drop-head version, a convertible version of the Hillman Super Minx, in two-door form, of course, for the convertibles. And yeah, you see these occasionally turn up at shows, but they're not very common now at all. Another great photo here now, PYF 718 is the registration. This is a 1955 Sunbeam Mark III, and again you can just see those little 3 portholes on the upper rear edge of the front wings, and that tells you it's the replacement for the Sunbeam Talbot 90. There's an Austin 1800 alongside it as well. Now we are over in New South Wales, and this is an early 1950s Hillman Minx saloon. There's a loggy miner in the background there as well. It appears to be a small garage where the Morris is parked at as well, with a petrol pump and a nice shaped globe on it as well, so plenty going on this particular photo. Now a side-on view of the Humber Hawk. This car dates to 1961. We'll see a review of it in a moment. But yeah, very handsome looking car indeed these are. I do quite like these, especially these early ones with the wraparound windows front and rear. And there's a rear view of the same car. An interesting fact, the right-hand reflector beneath the main light unit, that is the fuel filler cap. So it's hidden away behind that reflector, which I'm sure confused many garage attendants when drivers and owners pulled up for fuel at a petrol station. They'd be left guessing quite where the fuel filler is. Okay, next up, thanks to Barry for this one, here we have his Staffordshire registered Humber Scepter. Very, very smart looking car, and again with those very distinctive wheel trims, metallic brown it would appear to be, this particular one, and again with the vinyl roof. Here's a fantastic photo that Peter Ward sent over a little while ago. This is at the police headquarters in Maidstone in Kent in 1955, and a huge lineup of police cars, a mixture of Singer Hunters and Singer SM1500s, the earlier cars. What a great photograph that is. I wonder if any of those cars are still around. Now here we have MPJ 320. This is a just post-war Hillman Minx. Very, very similar looking to the pre-war cars, although those 3 extra little strips you can see at the bottom of the front wing there, just next to the grille, that is the giveaway that we're looking at the post-war rather than the pre-war Minx. But yeah, very, very similar to the pre-war cars. LYX190D is a 1966 Hillman Imp. And yeah, we've got a few sort of early 70s cars in the background there. There's a Humber Scepter, Mitsubishi alongside it, I think. And over on the left, one of the Leyland Princesses, the Wedgie Princesses. There's a review of the same car with a few extra lamps bolted to the rear, and again you can see that lift up rear window, which is an interesting, but yeah, there's quite a few cars in the background there. We've got a Mark IV Ford Cortina, an Allegro, an E21 Series BMW, the 3 Series Beamer. So yeah, a bit of everything going on there. And 4 fantastic photos now of JYM 100, a 1948 Minx, and again this is that interim model, the Minx Mark I, that was only produced I think from like 47 to 48. Real stopgap model this was. The main body was based on the pre-war or just post-war Minx with a slightly different front. Now we have 3 ladies posed with a drop-head coupe version of, I think it's just a basic Hillman Minx. It could be a Singer Gazelle, but seeing the badge on the front door there, I think this is probably the Hillman Minx. In the background we have a 105E Ford Anglia base model with the fixed rear windows. Now we are on a car ferry somewhere, and there's a lady there in a very jolly dress leaning against a Ford Corsair, and on the left we have one of the Hillman Imps. We carry on looking through this world of post-war Roots Group cars, and we have a couple of ladies here sat at the seaside with their Singer Gazelle, their 2-tone Singer Gazelle. Nice one with the wraparound rear screens. I think they look so much nicer, the swoopy curvy roof and those wraparound screens. Very, very nice indeed. This car dates to 1959. Here 2 chaps, perhaps brothers or father and son, who knows. LPL 234D is a Humber Imperial. This was the posh one with the selector ride rear suspension and the vinyl roof. You can just see there underneath the roof bars and those canoes or kayaks, I don't quite know. Anyway, we are at 10 Downing Street now, home of the Prime Minister, of course. You can see number 10 on the door there, and the car itself is a Humber Hawk. There's a dapper chap here posed on the front of his Sunbeam Alpine. Can't quite see the registration number, unfortunately. There's a little scooter alongside it as well. It all looks very agreeable. The buildings in the background, maybe we're in the Cotswolds somewhere perhaps. It's that kind of vibe going on with those buildings in the background. But either way, great stuff. And here's a chap in his suit alongside HMW 242. This is a late 1951 or early 52 Humber Hawk. It's a Wiltshire registered car. And yeah, that's really smart. And with RAC and AA members badges on the front there, so covering all angles. Right, here's a young lad clambering out of the family's, I'm guessing, Hillman Minx. And in the background we have a Herald and an Anglia. Now, is that an Anglia Deluxe or a Super with a two-tone colour scheme? Not quite sure, but again, a period roof rack. I think this tells us that the boots in many cars weren't all that large back in the day. Okay, we're at a 70s car meeting here. There's a Humber in the middle there, probably a Hawk. And on the right-hand side, now that's a bit of a rarity. That is another one of those express delivery vans, I believe. What a great scene that is. I wonder if any of those cars are still around. You'd think they might be. Okay, 999 well YLG. That is a Humber Scepter, and very, very nice it is too. Alongside it, it's one of those Huskies again, with those stick-on rear demister panel in the back window. YEV 128. Here we have the Singer SM1500. These were quite sort of renowned for having very, very thick windscreen pillars. Road testers of the day did comment on that quite a lot, from what I can tell. And they weren't universally popular, I don't think. There's a young lad here in uniform alongside, presumably, the family Hillman Minx. Here's another photograph now. Now, this lady has actually appeared before quite early on, alongside the Humber Scepter. YMG was a registration of that one, and this I think was their replacement, a slightly later example on an end plate. And this car has the row style wheels on it, very similar to those wheels you see on MG Midgets, MGBs, that kind of thing. There's another photograph of the same car, the front three-quarter view, different colour, but yeah, GLR 539, and there's the registration number. I doubt very much that that car is still around on the road. There are very, very few of these left. 9821 KD is another example of the Hillman Minx, the four-door Hillman Minx. Of course, all the Minxes, the fixed head saloons, were four-door cars. You've got a few other interesting cars there, Vauxhall, little Ford as well. A bit of everything there outside Littlewoods. Here's a great picture, thanks to Trevor for this one, a colour shot. This one was taken in Adelaide, Australia in 1966. And to our eyes it's a Hillman Minx, but I'm guessing again this is probably the Humber badged equivalent. But if I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments. Looks like a family outing here, and the magnificent Humber Hawk again is providing the transportation for the day. What's the little estate car thing alongside? Is that based on an Austin Gypsy perhaps, or maybe a Land Rover possibly, or is it something else? Now we've had the Minx Californian already, and this is the two-door Minx drop head coupe. What a little bobby dazzler that is, with the three-position roof partially rolled back. In the background there we've got a Phase 1 or 1A standard Vanguard and a Vauxhall Victor as well. What a bevy of classic cars. And here we are in London in the early 1980s, again thanks to Peter for this one, and we have a Hawk Estate, the Humber Hawk Estate, a magnificent looking car. This one was looking a little bit faded, presumably in regular use, and I doubt it's still around now. But yeah, what a practical car that is. Now we're back to those lovely Mark 1 Minxes again, the sort of 47 or 48 registration Hop 882. This particular example, this is a Birmingham series from 1948. And there's a young lady posed alongside it. Perhaps that was their new car, or maybe her parents had just bought it brand new. Either way, and there's the chap stood with the same car, and you can just see it's got those quite chunky tread rear tyres on the old Town and Countries, I think they are. But yeah, quite a nice car, quite a handsome looking thing really. Probably finished in grey. Oh, it's a bit hard to tell in a black and white photograph, but yeah, probably grey I would imagine. Okay, back to colour photographs here, and a very bonny two-tone example of the Hillman Minx, or as I think we're in Australia, probably again a Humber badged version. Still quite a few of these Roots Group car photos to go, and here we have one STU, one Stew on a Singer Vogue. This, well, whether the car is still around or not, I do not know, but the registration is now on a 2015 Toyota of all things. But clearly, a few years ago, it was on this lovely old Roots Group car here. Now, thanks to Ray for these two photographs of his old Hillman Minx PRG 587. Another great looking car. No double yellow lines on the road, just park where you want. Things were a lot easier in the 1950s and the 1960s in many, many respects when it comes to driving. No cameras and so on. Okay, thanks to Sam for the following two photos now, and we have another Arrow line, the Arrow series Hillman Minx. This one from late 1967 or early 1968. The F on the registration at the end of the registration is the giveaway that's the rough time frame that we're looking at with this particular car. The headlamps have been painted yellow, of course, to comply with driving over on the continent. But yeah, what great colour photos those are, so thanks so much for sending those over. Next up, YPP 597. At first I thought this was a Minx, but again, if you look through the windows to see the rear side window arrangements, this is the Husky estate car, and that registration tells us it dates to 1956. Now, can anyone identify the caravan that's parked alongside it? Yeah, that might be a bit of a struggle. Anyway, staying with Hillman Huskies, we've got WTR 577. Just a couple of years or so newer, this one, but looks very, very different. And again, the two-door estate car based loosely around the Minx and sharing its main body shell with the Cobb van. Here's a great overhead scene of all sorts of cars. In the centre there, we've got a Super Snipe Mark IV. These were built from 52 to 58, and they're about 6 inches longer than your regular Humber Hawks. Look at that Zodiac in the foreground there with the Continental kit with the spare wheel hung out the back like that, and the extended bumper mountings. Quite a rare scene. Okay, thanks to Charles for this wonderful colour shot. This was down near Dover, I believe, 843 AKM, a Sunbeam Rapier, registered in Kent in late 57 or early 1958. What a great old picture that is. Very, very stylish. I don't think I've ever seen one of those particular rapiers in the metal. Okay, thanks to Barry for these two photos now of himself, his wife, and VBH7N, a Hillman Hunter. This was Barry's first company car, finished in a very vibrant colour, bitter green apparently. Here's the colour of this one. It's quite rare apparently because it had overdrive gearbox as well, a special order job. Okay, we're back to Singers now, and we have two photographs of the good old Singer Gazelle. This one registered 112 VKK. Looking very, very smart indeed. Up for sale at the side of the road by the look of it, and it looks to be in very nice condition too. There's a review of the same car. I do like the two-tone strip down the side. That gives it just a bit of a more sporty air compared to your regular Minxes. These were definitely much more at market compared to your regular Hillman Minx, even though the underpinnings were very, very similar. Another very early car here, based on the pre-war days, but I think this is a Singer Super 10 of the about 46, 1947, something like that, probably just before the Minxes came along. But yeah, that's a rare photo, a nice side-on black and white shot there of a gent and his lady friend. Okay, now we have a big old Humber Super Snipe for sale. Clearly this was in the 1970s or early 1980s and past its first flush of youth, I think it's fair to say. There's Peter's Singer Hunter in the background, and a mighty Humber there for sale for £399. And we have another of Peter's photos now, 646 APJ, another example of the rare Singer Hunter. and those photos don't turn up all that often, even though this one's slightly fuzzy. I had to include it really. Another Singer SM1500, this one with a two-tone paint scheme. And again, you can see those really thick windscreen pillars. And I think the windscreen itself was flat glass, which was probably quite unusual for new cars at that particular time. Here we are in New Zealand, and in a supermarket car park we've got a whole galaxy of interesting cars. And there is a Singer Gazelle, and in the background is a lovely little Singer Estate car. Very, very nice. The 4-door Estate, whereas the Husky was 2-door. That is the Estate car, I think that one was called. Now, thanks to Roger for sending these over. We've got 3 photos of another lovely Humber Hawk. I think it's a Mark V. This was in Ceylon, of all places. And looking at the photo at the bottom left, clearly that was a trunk route. Three photos again, and this time it's the post-war Singer 9 Roadster. Again, we are somewhere out in Empire for this particular shot. We're not in Britain for this one. Look at some of the trees in the background and so on. But if you can tell me whereabouts these photographs were taken, please let me know. Now we're back on home turf again. Rack 704 is the registration number of this particular Hillman Minx. It's a late 50s one, 1959 to be precise. And it was first put on the road in Bradford in Yorkshire. Whether that's the location for this particular field and photograph, history doesn't recall. But we clearly have a picnic stop going on here with the same car. Got the blanket out and the little wicker basket and presumably some nice sandwiches and maybe a bottle of ginger beer. All those kind of things. But yeah, great scenes. Oh dear, we have an early 1950s Minx here looking very, very sorry for itself. This is in Luxembourg many, many years ago. 3 different cars in the background as well, including an NSU R080, a Simca and a Peugeot 504. But look at the poor old Hillman, what a state that's in. Maybe it's still there even, who knows, but clearly this left-hand drive Minx had probably reached the end of the road. I can't imagine anyone dragging that out and getting it going again. Cheers to Colin now for 3 photos of the family Singer Gazelle. We saw him and his parents and the SM1500 that they used to have before this, quite a while ago now in this particular combination. But this is the Singer Gazelle 434 KPJ. What a lovely looking car that is. And KGD 835. We're on the Safari Rally of 1959. Little Hillman Husky here has been entered. Car number 30, driven by Ron Dalton and Paddy Hopkirk, no less. There's a name to conjure with from the history of rallying. Paddy Hopkirk, of course, rallied rather the Mini Coopers and so on. Okay, 2 photos now of a very rare Hillman Minx drophead coupe. This could be phase 3 or phase 4, perhaps, not quite sure where we are. It's a left-hand drive example, and that's just a rare, rare car, 4-seater drophead coupe. In this particular photo of the same car on a different occasion, apparently this was photographed at Chandos or Chandos Lake in Ontario, Canada. So that's the location of this particular scene. Another colour slide here that I scanned a little while ago. 1267 MN is the registration of this 1959 Hillman Minx Saloon. That is an Isle of Man series. Now, is this photograph, was it taken on the Isle of Man, I wonder? Does anyone recognise that building in the background? Looks like an old military establishment. Okay, not the world's greatest photograph, I confess, but clearly we've got a camping trip here, and here a Commer Cob on the left-hand side. Over on the right is a Thames 400E minibus. In the middle, an old frame tent. Another beauty again spotted by Peter on a trip over to New Zealand in the late 1970s. This is the New Zealand market, Humber 10 from 1947. This was their version of our Hillman Minx, and look at that very different grille arrangement. When I first saw this I thought maybe this was a homemade conversion, but now that's correct. And here we've got a chap in a very smart pullover stood alongside his 1964 Sunbeam Alpine with hardtop and roof bars and skis. So clearly the sporty chap was off into the hills for a bit of skiing. I think you can see a bit of snow just on the top of the hills as well. Here's a very smart example, possibly almost new at the time of photograph. Another Hillman Minx there, four-door Hillman Minx. You can see the old skinny cross-ply tyres that were standard fitment on cars of this era. But I do like these. The early ones were side valve powered and later ones had an overhead valve engine. Thanks to Tony for this one. Yeah, this is a dropper coupe version of the Singer Gazelle. Looking at the front wing there, it's had a bit of a biff. This was photographed in Ceylon, or Sri Lanka as it is now, in 1959. And to round out this look at Roots Group cars, I wanted to feature just these two photographs that Nev kindly sent over of a beautiful big old post-war Humber in an Australian museum. Clearly in excellent company. There's even a V8 Pilot alongside, you can see in the second photograph. So thanks to Nev for that. Thanks to everyone that sent over photos that appear in this particular Roots Group photo compilation. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, have a look around the rest of the channel before you disappear, and there'll be many more videos along very soon. So bye for now.